Only these Montreal Canadiens could find a way to come back from a 3-0 deficit in the first period just to blow a lead in the third period.
You are Locked On Canadiens, your daily podcast on the Montreal Canadiens. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome into another episode of Locked On Canadiens. Thank you for making us your first listen of the day and for subscribing wherever you get your podcast. Doing that supports us here on the show and ensures you do not miss an episode. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com and win $300 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. My name is Ian Boisvert, also known as that Maybe It's Ian, and I'm joined as I always am by Laura Saba, also known as the Actor Stig. Laura, what a wild one on Tuesday night with the Flyers coming to town to face off against the Montreal Canadiens in a game that I said on Monday was going to be low scoring, low offense. The goaltending's great for Philadelphia, and then none of that happened.
One of our listeners, Terry, sent us a message saying, "Is it opposite day?" And this was, I think, about halfway into the game. So, this was not by any means the Montreal Canadiens' best effort this season. In fact, I'm sure Ian, you will agree that it was not good. It might be their worst performance.
Yeah.
But nothing that I expected to happen happened. First of all, also I was late watching this game. Like literally, I don't know. It took me like 5 extra minutes or something. I was in the middle of something. I turn on the game and it's already 3-0 to Philadelphia and the group chat is popping.
Yeah, that gif from Community where Don Glover's character walks in with the pizza and they're like everything's on fire, and that's what the game was. That's what you walked in on Tuesday night. Look, we'll cover that game. We'll talk about things we liked. Will be a short list. Things we really didn't like, which I imagine will be a longer list. I want to focus in on Sam Montembeault. He's been the subject of a lot of attention lately, and I think we saw some really positive things after a very negative start in that one. And finally, because I was asked about it, I have a mailbag question here from a listener asking about 3-on-3 overtime. I think that the 3-on-3 overtime we saw against Philadelphia perfectly encapsulates what I love about it and what I hate about it. And I want to talk about that when we get to the third segment. But let's start. Montreal drops a game beyond regulation for the first time this year. Usually they get to overtime, they just win it, they skate off into the night. Didn't happen this time. I did get a little chuckle out of the Flyers sending Christian Dvorak out to take the opening faceoff, and I went, we are not starting with the puck. And that is exactly what happened. It was like, it's old times. Christian Dvorak winning a draw. The difference was he actually stayed on the ice for the Flyers, which I thought was a bold move by them. But look, the Canadiens didn't start on time. They just didn't. They got outshot 12-2 in the first period. They were outscored 3-0 in the first period. Sam Montembeault, you probably can't fault him on the first two that went in. The third one, I absolutely despised. Rebound, bounces wide. He should have held the rebound, kicks wide. We'll talk about Montembeault later, so I don't want to key in on that too much. Laura, when you look back at this game, are you more focused on how they came back and were able to score 4 unanswered in the second, or how they either A, once again blew a third period lead, or B, how they got into a 3-0 deficit against the Flyers to begin with?
I think the focus is on how they started, right?
Yeah.
We've talked a lot this season because they've done it a lot. We've talked a lot about, having a great first period, going to losing the lead, going to overtime, winning. That's their formula. We talked about that already. What this time around, they just didn't seem ready. And I think this is like a huge lesson that they need to learn is that you there's no point in the game where you can't be ready. Sometimes the other team gets the better of you, but in this case, it was fully due to the Montreal Canadiens, right? That's how they got into that deficit. Yes, Samuel Montembeault should have made those saves, right? There's no question about that. But I think it's the entirety of the team that was to blame. And again, this was not their best effort. And I hope that this game and this loss is a reset for them. Like they need to go in and say, we need to approach our games differently.
Yeah. I think, it was easy to focus in on Montembeault because that's been the story, right? Is can this guy do enough to keep the Canadiens in hockey games? What I didn't love was the effort in front of him. In that first period, like it just didn't seem like any Canadian was ready to go. There were flashes from Demidov, who I thought, especially on the power play and later on in that game, I thought he was pretty good. But like generally speaking, that first period was horrible. And I thought in the second period we were going to be off to a disaster. The Canadiens won the opening draw in the second period, and then Noah Dobson immediately turned the puck over. And I was like, oh, okay, so the game's over. At that point, I literally said to myself, oh, okay, it's done. It just didn't seem like anything could happen. But they pick up some goals. They score 4 times in the second period. Kirby Dach picking up 2 goals, 2 and 3 for him on the year. Nick Suzuki keeps his point streak going. It is now at 12 games. If you look at the Canadiens' point streaks, I don't think he has a real shot at hitting the top of that list because I believe it's Guy Lafleur and it's something like 30 games. So we have to just take this all with a grain of salt. But in the modern Canadiens era, he's breathing rarefied air. Like there's not really many players doing what Nick Suzuki has been able to do. I want to focus in on the power play here. It is downright terrifying to watch them go out onto the ice. The pass that Ivan Demidov sent over to Nick Suzuki, the maniacal laughter that Mike Johnson had on was hilarious. He was like, he was disgusted by that pass, and he should have been. Is this the best power play unit the Canadiens have ever had? I'll say in the modern era. Is this like, starting in 2000?
Yeah.
Best they've ever had.
Okay, so the 2010 one was really good. Okay, the 2008 to 2010, like that era, it was really good. But I don't think that there's this kind of potential, like this kind of lethal potential in the last 20 years. I will say that.
Yeah. What I loved about their second power play goal, the one that Demidov scored on, I really loved the Hudson play at the blue line, where he was dead to rights. There was no shot that he was going to be able to turn that into offense. And he somehow managed to get the puck over to Slav, who immediately looked down low and saw Demidov, who then is essentially in a 2-on-1 because the Flyers smelled blood at the blue line with Hudson, sent a bunch of guys after him. And now they've created a 2-on-1 down low where I don't remember who the defenseman was for the Flyers, but that guy, you did your best. That was all you could have done, because your options are, I will either take away the pass to Nick Suzuki and give Ivan Demidov an unblocked shot at our goaltender, or go after the shot and leave open a wide open Nick Suzuki from a spot he has already scored from in this game. I find that this power play unit, it's going to keep them in games. It did in this game. They're dead to rights in this game if that power play unit does not do what it has done for the last few games.
Yeah.
So I think the Canadiens are at a point now where even if they don't have their best at 5-on-5, they only really need 1 or 2 opportunities for that power play unit to hit pay dirt. And thankfully, Garrett Rank was willing to oblige them in this one against the Flyers. Any final thoughts on this game as a whole? We'll get into sort of what Montembeault did, and I want to talk about 3-on-3 later, but what else do you have from this one?
I think the Montreal Canadiens just need to be better prepared against New Jersey. And I really want them to take this as a lesson. Like when they went down 3-0, and I was like, great, it's the adversity that was coming, right? And I hope that they don't take the wrong lessons from this. So for me, again, and the shootout, I don't know, like the shootout is always a wash. I would like to see a lot more regulation points. The Canadiens need them. They are banking points right now, but if it comes to a tiebreaker situation, they're not putting themselves in the best situation. But I really want them to take this lesson and play much better against New Jersey, because New Jersey is going to present a serious test for them.
Yeah, I thought that to myself as I watched this. This was, of the 3 games they had this week that we covered yesterday in our weekly forecast, these were the most gettable 2 points there. The Flyers had not won a road game yet this season before coming to Montreal. Mm-hmm. So, this was a gettable game for Montreal. To not leave with 2 points and instead limp your way to 1 point is disappointing. And if they play this way against not only New Jersey, but if they play this way against Utah, they're screwed. Like they're not picking up any more points. What did we say? 4 points was a good week from them. They need 3 more in their last 2 games. So they have to play better if they want to get back to that. Anything else before we move on?
No. I really love this team, even though they played badly. They're so exciting. I just love watching these guys.
Yeah, the good news is whenever they're playing, a game is never over, and the bad news is whenever they're playing, the game is never over. So that's that is the current experience that you're getting from the Montreal Canadiens. All right, we'll leave that there. When we come back, we're looking at Sam Montembeault. Rough start, but he rebounds in a big way. Can he string this together into his next start? We'll get into that in just a minute here on Locked On Canadiens.
This episode is brought to you by Rougiet. Let's be real, making excuses doesn't solve anything. We've heard them all before. It's just stress, I'm tired, or it happens to everyone sometimes. But when it comes to performance, sometimes your body just needs a little extra support, and that's where Rougiet comes in. Rougiet.com offers fast-acting, doctor-prescribed treatments for ED designed to help you stop making excuses and start making moves. Rougiet makes it easy to get started. You just connect with a board-certified doctor 100% online, no awkward waiting rooms, no in-person appointments. And if prescribed, your treatment ships discreetly straight to your door. The process is fast, simple, and private. And it's all handled by real doctors. It's about confidence, connection, and getting back to the moments that matter. Visit Rougiet.com/LockedOnNHL to get 15% off your first order. That's Rougiet.com/LockedOnNHL. And don't forget to use our code LockedOnNHL so they know we sent you. Rougiet. Stop making excuses and start making moves. You guys, I'm so excited about my new Doer jeans. I can't live without them. I'm wearing them everywhere. Work, errands, travel, everywhere. Why? Because they're so comfortable and so stylish. Doer jeans have 5 times the stretch of traditional denim. They feel stretchy, but they don't look stretchy. Doer combines classic jeanswear style with the kind of comfort and performance you get from athletic wear. It's the best of both worlds, and honestly, as a travel girly, you know that's who I am. It's changing my life. My Doer jeans are going to go all over the world with me. Doer are pioneers of blending technical innovation with everyday clothing. They invented the original performance denim. Simply put, Doer makes the world's most comfortable pants without having to sacrifice style. Trust me, once you try these, they'll be your go-to as well. Get a pair for yourself or as an amazing holiday gift for someone you love. Go now to doer.ca/LockedOnCanadiens. You'll get 15% off your first order. That's DUER.ca/LockedOnCanadiens for 15% off. Doer.ca/LockedOnCanadiens.
All right, we are back, and we're talking about Sam Montembeault. 3 goals against on 12 shots to start the game. I really only fault him on that third one, but that's the problem, right? There seem to be a lot of goals that get scored on Sam Montembeault. You go, that one's not on him. The first one, a high deflection. Puck was barely off the defender's stick before it was tipped in by Bobby Brink. Alex Newhook loses his guy on that one. I put that more on Newhook than I would on Montembeault. Second one-timer on a 5-on-3. Okay, what are you gonna do? Like, I thought Xhekaj getting that first power play shift at 5-on-3, I thought he actually did pretty well. What are you going to do? There's a spinning backhand pass to the other side of the slot. The last one, a shot goes on. It's in his pads. He just bounces it out, burps it up to the guy right in front of the net who scores. Like, that's the one that you just can't have. Because, maybe we're not even getting to overtime if that doesn't happen. The Canadiens come out in the second period. They score 4. They are up 4-2. Maybe they don't give up 2 in the third period. Maybe they do, though, because that's just who the Canadiens are right now. But Montembeault rebounds. He plays really well the rest of the way. The Flyers get 40 shots. He gives up 4. So I'm not a mathematician, but that's a 900 save percentage. That's sort of really what we've all been asking for him, right? Like, what did this game do for you with Montembeault?
I think it was that save against Dvorak at the end of the second. That's when I realized he could come back. Because I'll be honest with you, at the beginning of this game and throughout this season, I've wondered if it was even possible for him to come back or if he was irreversibly broken. Now, a lot of people brought up, our listeners, friends, general Habs population, talking about that groin injury and maybe he's favoring it and maybe, he's not taking the risks, et cetera, et cetera. But I think after that Dvorak save, when I saw that in the third period, there were many moments, and I think even maybe in overtime, where you saw instead of crouching into his goal, Montembeault was being aggressive, right? Mm-hmm. He was getting out of the net. He was meeting the puck where it was, right? So that, like, if you take away those first 3 goals, but I do have to say something. Yes, maybe those 2 weren't on him, but we have to stop saying that about Montembeault. He needs to put up a supernatural performance before I can have confidence in him again, right? He needs to put up a Dobish-like performance. And honestly, like, all of that stuff is good. He needs to build on it. I believe now, like, after seeing him seeing him make those big saves after he let that third goal in, and seeing him make that save on Dvorak, seeing him be aggressive and get out of his net. I'm glad Marty left him in, because I honestly, if I was the coach, I would have switched him out. But
Yeah.
yeah, right.
He wasn't making it out of the first period if I was behind the bench.
Exactly.
And it's a good thing I'm not, right? Like that's he proved me wrong.
Right. That's what Marty, right? Like he did the same thing with Kirby Duck. We were like, the team is winning. Why are you changing? But Kirby Duck had a fantastic night, notwithstanding the result, right? So for me, that's the thing with Montembeault, is that I feel a lot more positive about him second period onwards, right? We need to see more. We need to see him really come back from this, because again, this is 900 percentage performance. The rest of it, I don't know. That average is really bringing him down, and he needs to put together he needs to be consistent. We love consistency. Yeah. I do want to mention, while we're on the topic of goaltending, I love a goalie poke check, and I know it was the Flyers, but Dan Vladar with that poke check, incredible. At the end of the game, I love a goalie poke check. It's like my favorite play in hockey, and I just had to shout it out.
I love it too. I just love the confidence of a goalie to just, I mean, who is better at it than Marc-Andre Fleury?
Yeah.
Like nobody.
Amazing.
That was his, I'm fully yard sale selling out, just going after I love it too. We're one and the same on that one. Also, just quickly talking about Shootout, Cole Caulfield needs a new move. He does the same thing. He comes in far left, goes really slow, tries to open the goalie up, shoots 5-hole. You look at Vladar, he was on his knees the whole time. He's like, I know you're shooting 5-hole, please stop. Yeah. Like he needs a new move. I will say about Montembeault and folks saying, oh, it's his groin, that maybe he's not perfectly comfortable with it yet. I find that Montembeault has been at his best this year when he's pushing post to post, when he's actually having to use those muscles to move across the crease. It's when he's static and he's stationary that I get the most nervous, because he's at that point relying on his reflexes instead of his athleticism, which I believe is a mistake for him. Like, I think he's a very athletic goalie, and he's trying to play more like Henrik Lundqvist, who used to play really deep in his net and just wait for the puck to get him and just have his reflexes win the day, right? Like, that was how Lundqvist played. You go back and watch any clips of old Lundqvist, his butt is in the net on most of his saves. It's just the way that he played. I don't know that Montembeault has that in his bag. I think he's at his best when he's going crease, post to post. We saw it in this game specifically. Yes, he gave up the one sort of cross ice pass on the 5-on-3, mostly because he's not expecting a spinning backhand pass to go through the slot. But every other time the Flyers tried to do that to him, he was there. He was there with a big save. So I'm less concerned that it's about his groin. I think it's still between the ears. Yeah. However, I think this game will have a lasting impact on not only Montembeault, but the Canadiens, their belief in him. And, Marty, I think we'll get fewer questions now about who he's playing in net, right? It won't be as big of a thing. I think Dobish still might get the New Jersey game, right? Like, it makes sense. Keep them both fresh until, Montembeault is fully that dude again. But I think that this will go a long way in reestablishing the confidence that they have in Marty. What was the other thing that I said yesterday, though, when talking about that goalie in particular, was that Montembeault doesn't play well when he's not very busy. Yeah. And as he got busier in this game, he got better, right? He faced 40 shots in this one. So I think there's a reason. There's some truth to that.
I think the Canadiens being good in the first period has completely like upended his entire game story.
It's game totally busted the way he sees how the game unfolds in front of him. No, it's broken how we see it, right? Yeah. Like, they have a lead at the end of the first now. I'm like, this is tight. I'm not used to this.
Well, that's it. And so, I thought it was really funny. Somebody pointed it out to you, and you're like, hey, the system works, right?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I do not want the Montreal Canadiens to give up 40 shots every game. I prefer them not to do that. I prefer, they put up the 40 shots and not give up the 40 shots. Again, their offense in this game wasn't that great either. I think, honestly, and I don't want to overstate his importance, but Christian Dvorak winning all those faceoffs, I think it really messed it up.
Well, Nick Suzuki flattened him at center ice. I think Nick Suzuki was a little mad in this game.
Yeah.
He was mad at Zegras a lot of the time. I think he was mad that Dvorak kept getting the better of him in those draws. And he's like, you know what? I'm just dropping you, old man. And he did. He popped him pretty good at center ice.
Yes. And we forgot the fight, right? The completely unnecessary fight. Why?
Yeah. I don't I don't understand why that fight happened. I don't. The Flyers didn't need a spark. They needed a save.
Yeah.
They needed a goalie who was going to stop the puck. Delorier and Xhekaj punching each other for a few minutes wasn't going to do that. And I don't know why Xhekaj obliged.
Yeah.
Like, and this is the thing of having an Arbor Xhekaj is that, like, there's really no good time for him to fight, right? Like, you're down by a bunch, yeah, go for it, but who's going to oblige him? Who's going to fight him?
Yeah.
Like, it's a challenge, but yeah, I completely agree. I don't know why that fight happened.
Oh no, it was smart by the Flyers. Like, they took out a defenseman, right? Like, like a forward who doesn't play all that much, and then a defenseman who like plays a lot right now, especially with Caden Gooley not here. Like, it was a math. The Flyers did a math.
Yeah, that was calculated by Delorier. And that's the challenge, right? Like, having an enforcer who's a defenseman, it really screws up how they can roll their lines when he's in the box for 5 minutes. So it's something the Canadiens will continue to need to sort of deal with as it comes. I think having a Florian Xhekaj come up at some point is going to really help with that. All right, we'll leave that there. When we come back, I have 3-on-3 overtime thoughts prompted by a listener who asked a question about how 3-on-3 has been going so far. And we'll get into all of that in just a minute here on Locked On Canadiens. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss the start of the game or you want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at an even bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, we're back, and we have a 3-on-3 question. I wasn't going to talk about 3-on-3 in this game. Had I not gotten this question from a listener, Levslog Dekalu. I'm sorry, I completely botched that, I imagine, but I did my best. Apologies. Thank you for sending in the question. Ian, I know you are not a big fan of 3-on-3 overtime. With all the nail-biting, exciting overtimes we've seen as of late, has your opinion changed? I find 3-on-3s we have been seeing this year are a lot more high energy, fast paced, less setup for 30 seconds than last year. Before I wind myself up, Laura, how do you think the 3-on-3 games have gone this year?
They've been fun. Yeah. I'm not going to lie to you. They've been fun. This one was the first one that I was biting my nails because someone else had the puck, right? Generally, it's been good because the Montreal Canadiens have been dominating in them. This time, I think you're going to get into it in a second. Like, it did turn into what you hate. But I'm just going to tell you, like, I really enjoyed them, like, since the beginning of the season. I've had no problem. The games have been exciting, partly because a lot of them have been, like, following really late game comebacks. So the Canadiens are always making it interesting. Right. They're always, like, making it compelling. But also, I would really like them to just win in regulation, please.
Yeah, that would be sweet if they did that. The last time they did that was, I believe, against Vancouver, and that was a long time ago. So they should probably do that again sometime soon.
Yeah.
I think that the way the Canadiens play 3-on-3 has evolved. Watching this game against the Flyers, I saw a lot of the way the Canadiens used to play 3-on-3 in the Philadelphia Flyers. It doesn't hurt that they started overtime with Christian Dvorak winning the draw because that's how important possession is, right? I talked about it, I believe, either earlier this week or last week about how Nick Suzuki was 6-3 at the faceoff dot in overtime. I believe he's now 7-4, I think, because he lost the opening one, but he won the last one with a few seconds left because they had to kill the penalty. The Flyers played overtime just trying to make sure that they didn't lose. They played overtime just waiting for the Canadiens to make a mistake instead of pushing the issue, forcing the issue. I find the way the Canadiens have been playing overtime is we trust our guys to go out and beat you.
I like that.
And I love that. When the chips are in the middle of the table, I want to be able to trust my dudes. and Nick Suzuki and Cole Caulfield and Lane Hudson and Ivan Demidov and apparently Alex Newhook and apparently Mike Matheson, they all think they're better than you and they're going to try to beat you. This is going to sound hyperbolic, and it probably kind of is. The way that the Canadiens are playing overtime is the way that it should be played by every team in this league. And if you are a fan of fun 3-on-3 overtime, you should be cheering for the Canadiens to win every 3-on-3 game that they play. Because if they keep winning this way, and this is a copycat league, and you want to win in 3-on-3 overtime, the way that they play has to become dominant. Yes, they do take the puck back to center when they're in the offensive zone. Yes, they do go, they take 2 steps back to take 3 steps forward. That's totally, I'm not absolving them of that sin. But what I am saying is that when they have the puck in the offensive zone, they do a lot more than just spin around with it at the blue line and then go, we don't see what we want, and go back. And they're trying to win the game. From the start of overtime, they're trying to win it. So I really, the way that the Flyers are playing and the way that the Canadiens have played in the past when they didn't have as much talent, and the way that most teams in the league play 3-on-3 overtime is that boring brand because it's successful. But it also sucks. It sucks to watch. It's not fun. And that at the end of all of this, I want people to remember that things like this show, things like hockey, things like all professional sports, they're supposed to be fun.
Yes.
And that's why 3-on-3 was invented, because we found that the shootout was not fun. And now most of the time watching a game, I'm yearning for the shootout, because at least it's something that resembles something we would see in hockey, the penalty shot. But we're at a point now where people don't really care about what resembles what takes place during regulation hockey and how we decide hockey games, which I think is one of the greatest sins of this era of the National Hockey League, is that we don't care how games are decided, which I find very sad. Yeah. That's sort of my, in a nutshell, opinion on how this is going. I love the way the Canadiens play it. Cole Caulfield, when he has the puck, he has one thing in mind, and it's ending the game. Yeah. And I love that. I love that we have guys that have that killer instinct. It hasn't translated to every other part of their game, but it has translated to 3-on-3 overtime. And those are valuable points. Yes, we would like to see them win in regulation, but points are points. You need to pick them up.
I agree. I also do think, though, that if only the good teams are going to have that kind of confidence. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, it's true. So don't you want to be one of those good teams?
Oh yeah, I do think the Canadiens are on their way to being one of the good teams of the NHL. Like they got to figure out a lot of stuff. I'm not saying they're there yet, but you're hearing things like records. You're hearing things like Cole Caulfield, all of that kind of stuff. So like they're on their way. When they work out all their issues.
That whole Cole Caulfield is has the most overtime winners in Canadiens history. I think that stat's fun. I think it's true, which is all that really matters. But Howie Morenz didn't get to play in 3-on-3. Could you imagine? He had 10 goals in whatever slog of overtime they were playing back then. If he had 3-on-3, he'd have 30 overtime winners, and he has 10. You know, I just think it's a fun stat. Obviously, you can only play in the games that you have, and Cole Caulfield happened to have 3-on-3. So I'm not taking that away from them. I do find the stat funny every time it comes up. Any final thoughts on 3-on-3 before we move on to our trivia questions?
We do have a clarification on the trivia question. We were right.
Yes, we had some folks who were, for the question we revealed the answer for yesterday regarding the 12-game point streak from Vinny Domfus. Some people said, well, Pierre Turgeon had a 13-game point streak, to which I argue, if Pierre Turgeon had a hat trick and I said he had a 2-goal game, I think Pierre Turgeon would be pretty upset about that, because I took away a goal, right? He had a 13-game point streak. That is a different thing than a 12-game point streak. I understand the thought. I understand the logic. But also, no one wins anything with these, and they're my rules. So that's, I guess, where we're going to end that. All right, today's question, or the question from yesterday, was a former Flyer and Montreal Canadien, Eric Desjardins. He scored 1 goal in his career against the Canadiens in Montreal. The assist came from a current NHL head coach and a current color commentator. Who assisted on this goal? Laura, do you have the answer to this one?
I do have the answer to this one. It is Rod Brindamore and Gary Galley.
I can't tell you how hard I laughed when I saw Gary Galley had an assist on this goal. Just because we all can't stand every game that he calls for Sportsnet. He has no connection to Montreal, and he gets every Saturday night game, and all of us are just so sick and tired of hearing this guy talk because he doesn't stop. And I know that I'm saying this as a guy who just talked for 30 straight minutes. You're free to go as you want. But I think it was just very funny that I was looking for a link here, and this is the one that popped up. So Jason L., congrats on the correct answer.
Yeah, I think with Gary Galley, it's that he doesn't, when you say he doesn't stop talking, it's like when the game is going on, there are some moments where it's okay to have a few seconds of silence, right?
Yeah.
He just tries to fill it with just anything. And sometimes the anything doesn't make any sense.
Let it breathe, man. On a podcast, what am I letting breathe? Silence? There's nothing going on. You're not seeing anything, especially on audio. Watching a hockey game, sometimes we're watching a highlight. Sometimes we're listening to the crowd, right?
Yeah.
That's an important part of watching a game is hearing the crowd reaction. The fact that they were doing the wave right before they got scored on the fourth time tonight. I'm sure that went over well with the wave haters out there. Anyway, yes, Rod Brindamore and Gary Galley were your answers on that one. Jason L. had the correct answer. All right. This next question is a former Montreal Canadian. So this former Canadian spent just one season in Montreal, scoring 4 goals in 29 games. He also played for Toronto, Phoenix, Chicago, and Washington. Who is this player? And I promise you, as you're listening to this, there is a reason I'm bringing this player up today. If you have the answer to this question, put it in the comments down below this video. Send it to us any way you know how, and we'll shout you out on the next episode of the show. And that is going to do it for us today on this episode of Locked On Canadiens. Thank you for tuning in and for listening to us and for making us your first listen of the day. We really appreciate that. Remember to subscribe wherever you get your podcast doing. That supports us here on the show and ensures you don't miss an episode. You can find the show Locked On Canadiens just about everywhere we're posting things: Blue Sky, Instagram, and TikTok primarily. You can send us an email, lockedoncanadiens@gmail.com. We do a mailbag every Friday, so we record those on Thursday. So send in your questions. Just as we answered one today, we like to save Friday for most of those, but today's was fitting for today's episode. You can find me at Maybe It's Ian. You can find Laura at The Actor Stick. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you guys tomorrow.